Thought. Today we're on episode 5, discussing incoming tips for incoming college students. We're here with a reasonably fresh panel. We have Bryn Reeder, who was on the previous episode about food.
Hi.
We have Justin Kleckner, who was on several episodes before, including the original Disney episode. You were also on the music and the arts, and
yes,
then you were on the third one?
No, I was not. That was just on those two.
Okay, yeah, because then John and Dewey came. Or
yes.
John and Tia came on with Mike. Yeah.
Yes.
And we actually have a new guest this time around, Dewey Bowles.
Hello.
You have actually seen him before. He was in the episode. He was in the background of the episode of about our ideal future, I believe. There were a couple of.
Is that the one I walked in?
Yeah, it's the one you walked in on. Yeah, exactly. Peanut Gallery this time. It's a little bit diminished. Only 2 people. Lauren Janney and John Engstrom, our sound guy. Thank you guys so much for being here. So, as I've mentioned, today's topic is a bit more on the serious side. We'll be discussing tips for incoming college students. All of us are currently wrapping up our first 2 semesters at Western Michigan University, and in the course of those 2 semesters, we've kind of learned a lot, not only about ourselves, but about what college is actually like, and whether or not you were actually prepared for it in high school, and like our own personal anecdotes about that. So each of us has assembled 2 to 3 tips, and we're going to go around in a circle and share them one at a time. We're going to try to keep this as serious as possible. So the ultimate goal is really to give just to give everyone listening a kind of good idea of what to expect if they're going into college or going back to college or whatever the case may be. So traditionally we start this off on that side of the circle. Would you like to go first?
Yeah. So I guess one of the main things that I have experienced in my first year is kind of just time management and how to handle everything. So I am currently in the music education field, and they kind of joke around that it's a 5-year track squished into 4. I am also getting a minor in accounting. So both semesters I've taken about 17 to 18 credits. On top of that, I sing in the church choir, which meets 2 days a week. I am in 3 singing ensembles. So it's been a lot to handle. So I guess my first piece of advice with that would just say that it's okay to say no to things. Especially with college, you're going to be here for as many years as you really choose. So there's no need to cram everything into the first semester, first 2 semesters. And I guess just really take it easy the first year, really get adjusted, or at least the first semester, because that's very important.
How would you, and I kind of want this to work on there's just, I want there to be discussion, just to kind of keep things on track, or to kind of keep it short. So I guess if everyone has a question, share your number 1 question, I guess, and then move on to the next tip. How would you advise people manage their time, on a day-to-day basis? Would you prefer, scheduling, or more or less, kind of a set thing every single day?
I guess that's all about personal preference, because I bought a planner at the start of my second semester, and I think I used it for 1 day, and then I lost it. So it's really just all about what your personal preference is. I think that it's good to just make sure you carve out time for either definitely homework. I generally do that at the end of the day. Food is also crucial. So I guess if you're the type of person that is very rudimentary and very schedule oriented, then you should definitely do that as soon as you sign up your classes. You need to make time to eat, to take a nap if you have early classes, to go to the gym. So I think it's all about personal preference.
I know what helped me in that aspect was definitely writing it out. I would get my classes, because you can't always control when certain classes you need are going to be, and then I would find time in between classes to study, eat, and I kind of had it written out by day, and that helped me to stay on track, because if I didn't have a day by day, I would probably end up sleeping during most of my breaks.
Yeah. Oh, me 1000%.
I think my biggest question would be, do you recommend people get involved with things, or should they just focus on their education?
1000% get involved. Because, college it's a big change. Especially me, I loved high school. I thought it was great. I had a group of friends, I had a job, I was doing well and everything. So coming to college, like 4 hours away from home, that was definitely a change. And it's nice because in my fall welcome group, I actually met a lot of my close friends now, and so that was nice. But a lot of people, if they don't really make those connections right away, it may be kind of hard to get out there and be comfortable with people. So I think that if you join an organization or a club, or for example, like I said earlier, I'm in a few singing ensembles, that's a great way to just get a close-knit group and like a family, so that they can help you either with stress or with homework or anything like that. So I think getting involved is absolutely crucial.
Alright, we're gonna pause for a second. Alright, and before I kick this back up, that's all. Just in your past.
I think my number one tip is to try and figure out who you are while you're at college, because personally for me, I came into college, I had what I thought I was as a person in high school. I came in like that, but definitely throughout college, actually throughout the first 2 months, I figured out that I wasn't who I thought I was. I ended up coming out as gay, and then I was bisexual, I came out as gay. And then that was a huge life changer for me. I feel like my life would be completely different if I hadn't done that. But everything that you can, if you think you are who you are now, you can try and stay with that. But college is about trying new things. If you want to try something out, if you want to try and change part of your personality, if you think it will make you a better person, go for it. If you want just to have fun and be that goofy person that you are when you're not at school, go for it. Just be who you want to be. That's my number one tip, I feel like.
What do you think is the best way to get out of your comfort zone?
For me, I feel like it's find that group of people that bring out that person that you want to be. For me, it's this friend group that I have right now. They bring out the best aspects of me that I feel like if I didn't have them, I wouldn't be the person I am today. Because they bring out so many good factors in me, and it's something that I will always remember, that I will always be grateful for, that I was able to find these wonderful people, and they were able to make me who I am.
I agree with that. I would definitely say trying new things. It's not even about meeting new people in that regard. Pushing yourself, yes, but also do things that scare you. Don't be afraid to go and try new things. I don't have a specific example, but not just in a social aspect, but also getting involved in something that you've always been curious in, just to see how it is. You don't want to be, that's a little harsh, but you want to try new things. That's what college is for.
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah, I guess. I guess this kind of goes back to something that we talked about a little earlier with trying new things and getting involved. I mean, at the beginning of the year, we had a thing called Bronco Bash, and that was kind of in the center plaza of campus, and there were a ton of tents for clubs, and I think I signed up for 6 or 7 different clubs. I think I actually followed up with one of them, if I even did that. So, I mean, college is a fantastic way to kind of figure out what you really enjoy doing.
Good. Bren, next to you, your tip.
My tip is don't be upset if your plan changes. I was not what you think of as your average college kid. I came in knowing exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a double major in dance and exercise science and possibly pick up a minor in whatever later on. And during my first semester here, even though I love dance with a burning passion, I realized that I was being more drawn to the world of physical therapy and that whole side of things and fixing the people I was with more so than actually dancing myself. Now, that's not a bad thing. I still adore dance, and I think it's a fantastic art form. But for me, I was very unhappy. I wanted to be taking more science classes, getting involved in the health college, more so that, and instead I was in rehearsals, and I was becoming very frustrated at that because I had danced for so long and it had been my go-to for everything, and all of a sudden I was in this place where it wasn't that anymore. I was being drawn to something else, and so I actually ended up dropping my dance major to a minor over Christmas break, and then this semester I ended up getting more involved. I now volunteer at NovaCare Rehabilitation, which is a physical therapy clinic here in town. I have begun meeting more people within the health college, and I am a lot happier. And even though my plan did change, I'm happy with the choices I've made. And like, you can kind of tell what you're being drawn to because you feel it. I know that's kind of like cliche to say you feel it, but you just know. And I was very upset when it was starting to happen. I didn't understand why I had so much dismay, and I was worried how my dad would react, how my mentors in dance would react, how even some of my old dance friends would react, because it had been my life for so long. And when I just came clean about how I was feeling, the level of support I got from my friends here, back home, my dad, was just astounding. And it's not being afraid to make choices that are best for your life.
I think a question that I would have would be, what made, like, I know you mentioned like that you had the feeling, but what if you go like come in undecided and then you choose something? What would you do if you then realize about halfway through you don't like that? Would you recommend them changing it again, like within like the course of like a month or 2 months? If they're in it, they realize they don't like it, would you tell them to keep going or change it?
I gave myself a semester when it came to dance. I started having like the dissatisfaction a few weeks into it, but I told myself, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna ride this semester out. I made a commitment to doing this for this semester. So I would definitely give it time, because you can go into something and kind of be unsure, because if you were undecided, then you're still kind of in that mindset of unsure. So definitely just give it time, and if after that semester you're still not feeling it, then go ahead. Find something else that you're drawn to. You'll find your fit. It's better to be happy in the career you're choosing than miserable.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Something I guess maybe I'd add on to it is it's not a bad thing to want to change, even if it's whether it's the first semester or even 2 years into college. If you don't feel right doing what you do, I mean, then change it, because the reality is you're going to be doing it for a lot of years after college. It's going to be the rest of your life until you retire. So I mean, it really just, if it doesn't feel right, don't force yourself to do it.
At the same time, I have to agree with that, and I think you also have to take in mind like where you're doing all of it. If the campus you're studying on doesn't feel like a home to you for whatever reason, there's no shame in like trying to transfer away and find somewhere that you feel like you fit in and like you can make a home for yourself. Because here at Western, I feel incredible, but I know people who aren't coming back next year simply on the basis that they just hate it here and they can't find a way to make it a place so they can settle down kind of and learn. So the environment is, I'd say, just as important as like a dedication to finding out what you want to do with your life. Jumping to me, I think thinking back in high school, I remember constantly seeing this idea that there's like a photo I had seen previously. It was like some percentage of people like stay with their high school sweetheart all the way through. And I guess one of my biggest tips for college is don't like stress finding a relationship. I will. I don't want to say I'll wholeheartedly admit that I was kind of too eager to find something, but I kind of came out of a bad place in high school with relationships and felt like I could try to jump into something different, something kind of crazy, and I didn't let things just kind of go off on their own for a while. And there really isn't anything wrong with that. If you feel like you want something dedicated, by all means, look for it. Just don't make it your first priority. Remember that you're here to learn and make friends, but at the same time, you have to keep a very acute balance of that. And with all the stress of things like extracurriculars, working a job between classes themselves, and then the added stress of a relationship, that can be a lot to handle. So you have to be very careful with how you allocate your time between those things in order to keep everything intact at once. I guess like the overall point would be to just, if you find something, great. If you don't worry about it, because there will always be time in the future to really look for something that suits you and what you want. And we have a question from
Am I allowed to say something?
Yeah, of course. But they know you're here.
No, I was just gonna say, like, if your mindset coming to college is like, I just wanna party, or like, your mindset is like, I wanna go to college and I wanna get laid, I wanna have sex, or I need to find a relationship, or the people that find somebody right away or find someone at a party and think it's like, I don't know. But if that's your mindset, that like, you're coming to college to have sex and just get fucked and like try to find like a boyfriend, then like, you shouldn't be coming to college, or you need to change your way of thinking, because that's literally gonna get you nowhere. And I've seen people who started out coming to college like that have already fallen behind because they just came with this wrong mindset. And it's not good.
Speaking from my own experience in this way, I came to college with kind of the opposite attitude. I was very determined. I was like, I'm not going to date anyone. My freshman year, I was like, I got to focus on my studies. I'm going to focus on myself, my friends. I don't have time for this. I had a semi-serious, as serious as a high school relationship can get in high school, and after that ended, I kind of just got into this mindset of like, I am capable on my own. I don't really want a relationship, even though like you still do. We're humans. We do crave human companionship. It's just how we are. But I was so on the opposite end of the spectrum that I was closing the doors on what could have been potentially very good relationships. And it wasn't until probably this semester that I was kind of like, you know what? I'm being too uptight about the situation. And so I started like opening up to the idea of a relationship, but again, I'm not looking for it. I'm not trying to force anything. But you don't want to be so closed off to it, because you could miss a good thing that's in front of you.
This is kind of going back to what Lauren said. I agree. I think that it's all about mindset as well. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to want a relationship, but I think going to college with your first priority being to get a relationship, I think that is, I think that's foolish. I mean, the main reason you're at college is to study and get a degree, and yes, that sounds kind of like a party pooper attitude, but it's not. I mean, you or your parents are spending tens of thousands of dollars a year, depending on how many scholarships and how many years you want to go. So if you're coming to school, you want to focus on getting laid or getting in a relationship, and then you end up flunking out, that's a waste. So you can have a relationship. Even if it doesn't happen right away, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. But you also need to spend more of your time focusing on your academics before a personal relationship. Or at least that's my opinion.
I can definitely say I was one of those people at the beginning of the year, and kind of still am, who I really wanted, because I had just gotten out of a 4-year relationship, and it was just like, it was something that I was kind of regretting ending, but it felt liberating at the same time, and I just kind of wanted to try something new, because after a while, being alone, not having somebody there to talk to was really weird. So I wanted to try and get in one as soon as possible, and that led to lots of problems, including a couple classes where I didn't do so hot. But definitely this semester, with the help of friends and counseling, it's been a lot easier to get that under my belt and balance both of them. But I keep going back to this one quote that my mom had told me. It was like, someday you will find the person who you will spend the rest of your life with, and who will show you why all those other people didn't work, or why you couldn't find those people before. It's because even though you're looking, sometimes not looking is the best option, because that person might stumble into your life and it could be the best experience of your life. And that's what all I'm hoping for, is I'll be able to find that one special person who I'll be able to confide with and hopefully spend the rest of my life with. But mainly I do agree with everyone, you need to focus on college first, because it is the number one reason that you are all here, or incoming freshmen. Definitely focus on your academics. It's so important.
Taking this back around, Dewey, we're back on you. Second tip, like a good focus.
Ooh, all right. Sweet. I guess my second tip, and I'm gonna think of 10 phrases, is that I guess it's okay that things are going to change, and things may not, always work out in the way you expect them to. I guess my personal experience with this is that I've grown up that throughout high school I had a lot of very close friends, and so actually the day I was moving to school, I know 2 of my best friends ended up texting me, and they said that they don't want anything to do with me anymore. And that was really hard, because it was my first day in a new state, in a new school, in a new setting. And that was really, really not cool. But, it sucked. But, that's okay, because I feel like the whole point of this new chapter in your life is that things are going to be different. And that, you can't really live your whole life with in a box, and an idea of what you think is going to happen, and that everything's going to stay the same. Life is all about changing, and I feel like just go in with a mindset that it's okay that things are going to change, and that you can't control everything.
And I was just going to add on to that, when you if you live like you're still in high school, you will have the hardest time going to college, because you will be like, my life was so much better in high school, or you'll try to compare everything to it. And when you can't move on from that will probably be the biggest factor that will hold you back. If you try to live like you're still in high school, if you think you peaked in high school, it'll just hold you back, because sometimes, you gotta let those friends go, or they weren't as important to you, or I promise those 4 years of high school compared to what you have going on in college for the rest of your life, those 4 years don't matter, and all that drama that people try to create and suck you back into don't matter. And what I found the easiest thing to do was just to be you know what, I'm starting over, I'm in college and I'm gonna start right here. I'm gonna keep the close friends that I know will stay with me, and come back to the things that I know will always be there, my old dance family and my actual family. But anything else, I'm just gonna let go of the past, because if I live like that and I try to just be too much a part of my high school, then you'll never experience what college is like.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I came into college with the mindset that I did peak in high school, because I loved my senior year of high school. I know a lot of seniors go experience a good year, and I did. So when I came to high school, a part of me was still in high school. I still wanted to keep up with all of my friends who were still there. I wanted to be a part of all of the drama. I wanted to know everything. And it was so stressful, because, it's not the same. And I did try to hold on to a lot of friends, and when you lose communication and you really don't want that to happen, it kind of sucks. But eventually the thing that kind of helped me was really just not cutting off communication, but I really just stopped investing a lot of my time and energy on my high school friends and, you know, all the high school drama that was happening. And I really tried to say to myself, okay, yes, I may have peaked in high school, but that doesn't mean I can't peak in college as well. So yeah.
Well, like, I think the biggest thing to note about like things changing is that life is going to be constantly moving around you, no matter what you're going to focus on. So when it comes to like your academic life in college and going forward with like a job, it's really important to hang on to what you can and then deal with the punches as they come in. It's like you said, people say that they peaked at a certain point. Life is just a series of peaks and valleys, really. You've got to be able to simultaneously enjoy when you peak and deal with the fact that you're about to fall into a valley, you know. You don't necessarily need to have foresight, but you need to be prepared for whatever could happen, because life is probably the most unpredictable thing you can ever experience.
My old studio owner used to always say the only thing you can count on in life is change. And that's a very true statement.
I know, personally for me, I had a lot of friends back in high school who, most of which I still keep in contact with, but a lot of them have stopped talking to me because they have new friends and stuff like that, and I'm not there anymore. But I still keep in contact with those really good friends. But going on change, I feel like the full year that I have known this group of people at college, like my closest friends, who I basically call my family, I know more about them than I did learning about my friends through all 4 years of high school. And it's ridiculous because you spend every minute of the day basically with these people, and you learn so much about them. You learn about their pros, their cons, their flaws, their scars, both emotional, physical. You learn all these things about them, and you basically just have to accept them for who they are. So, because you care so much about them. So even though it may seem like you have really good connections back in high school, definitely just wait till college. You will meet some of the best people of your life.
Yes, John, would chime in?
I'm just gonna pop in real quick and not listen to myself talk because that's weird. Anyways, going off of everything, like, for me at least in high school, like I had a lot of good friends and I had a lot of great connections, especially when we went out. I felt like I had a strong bond with my friends in high school. I will agree that like it's okay to cut ties with certain people that were from high school. You don't have to remember every single person from high school for the rest of your life, and you don't have to worry about losing those memories. But for me at least, I tried to maintain like small, like really close friendships with people who have gone off to college, and also people who are still in high school who are a year behind me. I try to maintain that at least like some sort of small relationship going into it, because I established such a strong bond with them. And so if I had a message to say is like, it's okay if you want to talk to people back home, but it's never a good idea to rely on the people back home, and it's always good to like change, like for instance.
So snaps.
Okay, I'm going to listen to everybody else now.
Justin, tip next to you.
I think the next biggest tip would be, even though you see a class and you're like, oh, this looks really cool, make sure you're actually ready to take that class. Because I decided, wonderful idea for me, to take ancient Greek in my first year of college, and I'm like, because this sounds really cool, and I'm like, it's not gonna be that hard. I was wrong. It kicked my ass. So, and it was a 1,000 level class too, which is basic like freshman class. So, you want to make sure that even though the class may sound interesting, you are both like emotionally and intellectually ready for that experience, because sometimes it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world, but you have to make sure you go through with it, and you have to make sure you are just ready for it. Make sure you're ready for the classes you take. Is basically the wrap up is make sure you're ready.
My note on that is just, even if they are hard, don't be scared of them. Like, homework is gonna be a pain, but like,
Can I pop in?
sure,
Again.
cut me off.
But I'm sorry. Go ahead. You can finish.
No, it's just don't be afraid of them. College is a monster. It definitely is. But like, if you're not understanding something or you're struggling, make a friend in the class. Get together with them and study, because they might be struggling with the same things you are, and together you guys can figure it out. But like, just because it's difficult doesn't mean you should shy away from it, because once you get through it, you could be like, wow, I have all this knowledge in this from this class that I was not expecting to have, and it could be something that could even inspire you to catch a minor in something, or maybe change your major to it. You never know what's going to intrigue you or inspire you in life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would say on top of that, like if you wanted to be in college and you really have committed to college, you should expect a challenge. Always, you should, because you paid this crazy amount of money for a reason, not only because of the high quality gym, or like the spending money on other things, but you're spending money on a challenge, and you have to take that to your advantage, and you have to actually commit to those challenges, even though it might suck.
Agreed, wholeheartedly.
I agree with both sides. I kind of have a middle-ish ground opinion, because I think that, yes, you shouldn't be afraid of maybe trying new things, maybe trying a harder class. But I also agree that, kind of like what I said earlier, I agree with Justin that maybe first semester of freshman year is not the time to take a brand new class, which is something you know nothing about, which could be a higher level class than you expect, as your first college class ever, I think that, especially because it's nice, because our classes, at least, they tell you kind of each class has like a 4-digit number, like 1,000, 2,000. Those are generally the earlier classes. And if you're taking a level 5,000 class your first semester, then it's like, it's kind of hard. But also, I would say that don't be afraid to drop classes. And that's the thing, which is nice about college, because they give you at least to the midterms, which is a few months to drop a class. So if you're really struggling after the first month, or even after the first test, then be like, okay, I got a bad grade, I'm gonna study so it doesn't happen again. But if there's a track record of you just maybe not doing well in this class, drop it. It's not worth, first of all, there's like no penalty for it. You may not get a full refund, but it won't drastically shoot down your GPA, and there's no harm in dropping a class you weren't prepared for. And I'm gonna go pee.
Okay, understood. But in the meantime, whilst he is gone, I kind of like what you said, Bryn, about expecting like workload and difficulty. The first semester I was involved in a couple of studio art classes, because I'm an art major, and they're required mandatory introductory classes, and I ended up having to drop one, and in order to make up for it, I decided to take that same class against 2 other classes that were also studio art classes. It's like a total of 9 credit hours and an obscene amount of out-of-class hours working on projects. I really don't think that difficulty is as big an issue if you allocate the right amount of time for it, but always be aware of how much work you're actually taking on. Like, having a misunderstanding of how much work you're going to have is like an understandable thing, because if you're coming into college for the first time, it's difficult to figure that out. and if you don't have like a resource to figure it out through, it's going to be a massive pain. But when it comes to stuff like studio classes or labs and things like that, always be cautious of like how much you're taking in, because that will absolutely kill you.
Also, be aware of the fact that each class is going to have a different workload. There are going to be some professors who do not care if you are taking 18 credit hours, and they will, I'm trying not to cuss, they will destroy you with homework. Whereas classes you were expecting to have like loads of homework in, you end up having nothing in, or very little. Like you maybe have like a paper at the beginning of the year and a paper at the end of the year. It literally varies on the teacher, so sometimes it's hard to distinguish how much work you'll have, but after the first few weeks you'll have a general idea, and if you don't think you'll be able to handle it, then yes, just like Dewey said, drop it, come back to it later. Like we've mentioned before, you're here at college for as long as you choose to be. It's how fast you move through the program. You don't have to stick to a 4-year plan if you need a little extra time. If you want to stick to a 4-year plan like I do, go ahead, take it head on. It's all about what you can handle.
I think, kind of going off what Brent said, a lot of teachers also, I think every teacher on the very first class ever, they'll give you a syllabus, which lays out the entire semester, and a lot of them will give you dates of tests, dates of things, and they'll tell you pretty much what your daily expectations are. I know that for my history class, there was, like my teacher said in the syllabus, that it's going to be like about an hour a day of just even reading or doing stuff like that. So teachers will, lay it out for you. So even if after the first day you feel like it's too much, or, I would give it a couple classes, but if it's too much for you, you can drop it. But then it's also nice because you can also add classes. You can join classes a few weeks into the semester. All you have to do is be responsible and get caught up. But, you can really mix and match your schedule until past midterms, which is really nice.
So, Brent, moving on to your next tip.
So my next tip is more so about finding the right people in college. So my background in high school, I did not have a traditional high school career. I was homeschooled through all of it due to training for dance. And so, I had a good amount of friends. I wasn't like overly social, wasn't underly social like most people assume homeschooled kids are. But I had like 2 best friends from back home who I'm still very, very close with. So like, you can't have those friendships that last from there. But when I came to college, it was kind of my first experience in a full-on school setting since like elementary school, which is completely different from high school or college. So I didn't really know what to expect. So I was very nervous going in. I was like, what if I don't have the right social, what word am I looking for?
You don't know how to properly read the social cues.
Yeah, social cues. I was like, what if I don't have that, because I kind of have had the friends that I've grown up with back home. And so I was very nervous. And actually my first few weeks of school, I was not with the group I'm currently with. And that's completely fine. I still talk to those people. I still consider myself friends with those people, but they just weren't the people I wanted to be with on a daily basis. They weren't the ones I wanted to go to when I was having a rough day. And I was very stressed out my first few weeks of college because even though I had them, I didn't really feel like I belonged. Most of them were aviation majors, and I was all the way across campus in the Fine Arts building. So it was just very difficult, and I didn't really feel like I could confide in them. And then I actually met Dewey at orientation, and he had found this group. And so I kind of texted him. I was like, your group seems cool. Can I come check them out? And I ended up becoming really good friends with all of them. Like my best friend Lauren, the peanut gallery, She's I became close with her through dance and this group, but it's okay if the people you meet right off the bat aren't the people for you. Don't be afraid to meet other people. And then once you do find your people, don't be afraid to continue making friends, because I have another group of dance majors that I hang out with on the weekends and stuff. So it's okay to have one set group or multiple groups or in a main group. It just find the fit for you.
Yeah, I like that idea of finding the fit for you. And on top of that, I think it's really important to have, I'm going to say that I think it's important to have more than one group of friends. Specifically in my case, we have this group of friends that we've seen on and off as podcasts, and outside of that, because I'm like a visual art major, I have a group of other visual artists that I like converse with and I'm friends with, hang out with on a regular basis. You know, it's important to have like a group of people you feel comfortable with, and then also a group of people you can collaborate with on some level. And if you keep them separate, that's fine. They can be like equally as intermingled, and that's totally okay. It's just a matter of like finding that fit, and whatever might be specific to you, like whatever works best, go for it. But I would definitely advise like a very diverse group, if not diverse groups, like plural, and kind of keep things, you know, varied up to sort of keep yourself from conflict arising. Like you don't want to get bored of the people you're around, or like start to think they're after you, or whatever like that. So it's really important to like keep yourself going.
I know one thing Western prides itself on is the diversity within its like campus. So yeah, I definitely agree with that, Michael, in the sense of not being afraid of going out and meeting all sorts of different people, because you never know who you're gonna meet. I'm sorry, Dewey, go ahead.
No, it's cool. I kind of agree with, I liked what Michael said, because yes, I do have this group, and it's actually nice because this group contains my other roommates next year, which, you know, it's nice because you really make strong connections. But then I also have a very close group of people in my vocal jazz group. I have a close group of people from my choir, from my a cappella group. So it's really just everything you do, you're gonna get a brand new group of people. And another thing I would say is, and this is a mindset that I think everyone at any age should have, is just be nice to everyone, and don't shut people out. Don't judge people based on appearance or first impressions. I think if you're open to everyone, you can really get a diverse group, and I think that's really important.
I think, actually, since we're talking about friend groups, my introduction to this friend group that I was currently in was accidental. Actually, I love telling this story because if I hadn't had my window open, if Dewey hadn't had his window open, I never would have met them, because I heard them playing Disney music from their room, and that's the reason I went up to go talk to them. If I hadn't heard that, I probably never would have met the people I was with, and college would have been completely different. So take every chance you can to try and make friends, because sometimes your best friends will be complete accidents, like mine, which sounds really mean.
I know one way I tend to make friends is I'll be in class, like a lecture class, and the teacher will say something, and I'm kind of a smart ass, so I'll like say something under my breath, and the person next to me will start laughing and be like, same. And then the next thing you know, you end up sitting next to that person pretty much every class, and you become friends with them, and then you meet their friends, and it's just kind of like a chain reaction. You kind of just meet more people, but like it can be as simple as that. You just making a comment under your breath, and someone else being like, I get that.
So moving on, we've talked a little bit about how workload and classes and stuff kind of factors into your life, and switching from like a high school environment where everything is very, very well controlled, you have a very set schedule, you know, you've got a plan for everything day in and day out. Like, you don't lose that completely when you go to college, but a lot of that changes. A lot of it shifts around, and it's a very different, more dynamic kind of environment. And with all the stress that can create, it's really important to note that there may come a time when you need to be willing to go get help for something. And I'm going to speak specifically on mental health here, because this is it's a very serious thing when you go into adult life. You're looking at after yourself, pretty much. Not from this point on necessarily, but after college, you are on your own. And if you start to experience really depressed states or very serious emotions that are hard to comprehend, or a lot of stress that's not seemingly going away, there's absolutely nothing wrong with going out and seeking an answer to that and a solution if possible. There's always something out there that can help you. Personally, earlier this semester, I was diagnosed with adjustment disorder, with anxiety and depression, and it was not only concerning to know that there was a name for something that I was going through, but also comforting to know that it was a thing that people knew about, and there was a way to deal with it. And since learning about that, I've kind of come to a state where I'm more comfortable with myself because I now know what I'm going through can be solved. So going out and seeking help, whether it be like for like mental medical reasons or anything else, whether it be academics or anything, there's no shame in it, and there are almost always services on campus to do it, to do it with. So don't be ashamed to go out and talk to somebody.
Or even if like you are diagnosed before college, I was diagnosed at a very young age with an adjustment disorder, anxiety, depression, and a mood disorder. So of course, my parents, very concerned, I was put into therapy, all of that. And I came to college and I had been out of therapy for a while, and I started to get worse in these mental illnesses again. And so like my friends know, and they've been very supportive. But even if you have the diagnosis previous to college and you were kind of already dealing with it and you think you have it under control, if it starts to get worse again, don't be ashamed to go back. There's no shame in going again and talking to someone, because it does help. If you stick to it, it really does. And then you're also able to help those who do get diagnosed later on in life. Like Michael and I have had many conversations about it since his diagnosis, because I can understand, because we have a lot of the same things.
And really quickly, like, to connect this in our previous discussion about friends, like, a small support group, like, kind of stemmed itself out from our main group of friends very early on in the year. And if you can find people to confide in and just talk to and kind of share your stress and situations with and trade advice and actual, like, assistance, just having somebody there to go with you to go get help is a really important factor and can do a lot of good for somebody. So don't be afraid to, like, talk to the people who are in your life about this, whoever it may be.
Going off of Michael, I think two main things I feel about this is, one, do not be ashamed of your diagnosis, and two, do what you need to do. And one thing I mean by this is, I will give a personal story, not about myself, but about my sister, who is 3 years older. She struggled with anxiety, OCD, and depression since a very young age. So at her first year of college, she also had a roommate who was severely depressed and was having, very dark thoughts, and who ended up flunking out of college. So that was not a healthy environment for my sister. So eventually, it got to the point where my parents would pick her up every single weekend and take her home. And it also got to the point where my sister would be concerned about her own safety with herself. So my mom would spend nights in her dorm room. And so the solution for that we found was she did not return to that school. She went to a community college by us and worked and stayed home for another year, and that really helped her. And so the next year after that, she commuted to a school much closer, and now she has her own apartment away from home. So I can't even imagine what the story would have been like if she had stayed at that school. So I think that you really there's no shame in maybe wanting to leave. There's no shame in, talking to someone. I think that you know what you need to do for yourself, and you need to make sure that you do it.
I think I can relate to this because, like Michael and Bryn, I was actually just recently diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And I had the symptoms throughout college, but I hadn't really done anything about them until my friends were like, no, you need to go and get some help. It's getting out of control. And because I had just been like, no, it's okay, it's fine, it's just a thing, it's not going to get any worse. But it did. So I am forever grateful that they were able to convince me to go. And the counselors, if you have counselors in school, which you should, they are some of the nicest people you will ever meet. They're so supportive. They listen, they help you out, and it's really, it feels like, it makes me feel like a completely new person whenever I go, which is something I feel like a new person completely. Like I have this mental disorder, but it doesn't affect me anymore. Well, it does, but it doesn't affect me as bad because I was able to get help, and these people are going to help me through this and as much as they possibly can to make it better. So definitely, if you feel like you have that, you just go get it checked out. If you feel like you might have something, it's never hurts to get checked out. It's always, well, at least at Western, it's free. So I don't know if it's the same at other schools. I would assume it would be, but go get it checked out. It never hurts to get something checked out.
Yeah, like even if you think it is kind of like a fleeting sort of situation, if it's severe to a point where you're worried about it, like by all means consider going out and talking to somebody or like telling somebody that you know and getting like a second opinion, because like I said earlier, life is a dynamic flow of like peaks and valleys, and it's really important to be prepared. So if you start to sense that something might be wrong, there's absolutely zero shame in being like, okay, I'm gonna go talk to somebody. Even if it's just once, it's better than ignoring it. And I assure you, you will thank yourself in the future for going out and discovering what's going on with yourself.
And also, do not be afraid to mention it to someone else. If you think they are going through something like this, please reach out to them. That might be all they need, is that support. Offer to take them to go, because most, like in my case, I didn't have the courage to go alone. I was scared. So having those friends that went with me and were able to support me through this is something that was fantastic. You always, and if you are that person to somebody else, it feels fantastic to know that you are helping them take a step on the journey of being able to get this under control, or at least to help them figure out what is going on.
But also remember, you can't force someone to go get help. There is a certain level of having to fight for it yourself, the want to get better. You can see these signs in someone else and like go talk to them about it, and they might not be ready to admit that there is a problem. So by telling them that they have a problem, it can actually make them close off to you, especially when you're constantly being like, well, I think you need help. It can just make them pull back and maybe shut you out completely. You can't force someone if they're not ready.
Laura?
The only thing I would say is also like, don't, like, yeah, you're allowed to be like scared if you think that like something's wrong or like you're not sure, but also remember, like, you're in college, you're gonna get stressed out, you're gonna get anxiety, like things are gonna happen, you're gonna be like, oh my god, I don't know what's going on with my classes, like I can't balance this, and like sometimes you just gotta like reorganize yourself, and then if you realize that there is a problem, like there's something more than that, yeah, then like talk to somebody, but don't forget that like you will most likely get anxiety, you will probably get something because you're in college and it's a lot of work, always, no matter what, and it's okay to feel like stressed out sometimes, it's okay to rant to people, it's okay to go get help, it's okay to like do whatever, but and it's okay to have those feelings.
Yeah, I agree with what Lauren just said. Going back to what Bryn previously said, I mainly agree, but I also feel that there are certain situations where it is okay, or not, that's not what I'm trying to say. I think that there are certain situations where even if a person doesn't want help, that they need help, and that you need to even tell, I don't know how I'm trying to say this, tell someone about it, but I think that I agree that yes, the person needs to, want to get help, but I think that if it gets too serious, then you need to make it happen, because sometimes someone cannot want to get help, but it's a very serious situation.
Then let me rephrase. If someone is showing minor like symptoms of anxiety or depression, then talk to them. If it's looking severe, like if they're not getting out of bed for days at a time and they're very like pulled away from people they were once like doing everything with, and they're just extremely uncharacteristically like different, then you should start talking to someone of probably a higher authority. Maybe if you know their parents, maybe get a hold of their parents, see if they can convince them, because sometimes if it does come from like your parent, you're more like, okay, well, I'll go because you want me to, and then they'll end up finding out. But But like if it gets to a certain level, then yes, you need to take steps to get them help. But you shouldn't force them if it's like just the start.
I do agree with you, Dewey. I feel like there's definitely a point where you should be like, okay, enough is enough. Okay, you have to cut out the middleman, because there are a lot of very serious things that happen when it comes to depression and how it relates to the rest of your life, and it's a very tricky, like somewhat of a time bomb to have to handle. And I feel like it's really important to acknowledge like how much help someone needs in a situation like that. Like if someone has minor signs and they're consistently showing it and just refusing help, even though they will acknowledge that they probably should get it, there's always like the chance you can just say, hey, here's the number for a therapist, or you call a therapist and be like, hi, can we watch over this person? And if it comes to things like really serious things like suicidal thoughts or self-harm, it might be appropriate at that point to be like, okay, I'm going to call these officials. If it gets serious, maybe the police, say hi, can you check in on this person every once in a while, because it has gotten to that point. It's always important to remember that while being considerate, you also have to be willing to act before it's too late, because mental health is something that's very hard to repair once it's been damaged, because you do need to be so willing to force yourself to get better. So one more tip around in the circle, and then we'll do some closing remarks. So, dude.
I guess my last tip would, it's not even really a tip, it's more just a thought that it's okay to miss home. It's okay to go home. You're not any less of a college student if you miss home and if you feel the need to. I know it's kind of vague, but I mean, I guess it's kind of it. When you go to college, a lot of people think that, they need to be independent, but I think that that's not true at all. I think that it's very okay to still be dependent and reliant on your family and your home, and always remember that you have a place to go back to if things get hard. That's all I really have to say about that.
And at the same time, you shouldn't be ashamed if you don't miss home.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a craving for adventure and getting out there in the real world, by all means, chase it responsibly, but chase it.
Yeah.
This is your first time setting out. You can go either way, and we don't really know what to expect, so it's totally comfortable for you to swing either way.
And it's okay to do both. It's okay to be very independent and a go-getter and explore new things while you're at school, but it's okay if you want to go home a few weekends in a row, or you call your dad or mom every single day. There's nothing wrong with having the best of both.
Even if, in my case, sometimes going home is not the best scenario for me, but it's definitely helpful, because it's going back to a familiar place. It's going back to somewhere where you feel comfortable. So even just to go home, just to get to recharge, to get back everything you've lost, just calm down. It's something that is very helpful, and just make sure that you do it responsibly as well. Don't go home so much that it interferes with college, but have it be a healthy amount.
I feel like having a good space to go, whether it's home or really anywhere, a space to go to separate yourself from the stress you're feeling and the environment you've been in for so long, just for some fresh air and a new perspective. For me, using the art studios here is a really great way to do that, because I just have something to focus on. I can separate myself from whatever's bothering me, do something creative that makes me feel better, and then come back to it when I've got this new kind of refreshed sort of energy that I can use to get through the day. Justin, your final tip?
I'm surprised I didn't mention this one first, but try your best to stay healthy. You are surrounded by thousands of people who who all have different styles of immune systems. So if you manage to get sick, or if you do get sick, try your best to take care of yourself, because you don't know if you get somebody else sick how severe it could be to them. But definitely, because like I know since coming to college I've gotten sick a lot more because I am like exposed to all these new people and all this new stuff, and it's kind of scary how bad it can get sometimes. But you just have to make sure you eat well, you get enough fresh air and like exercise to make sure you stay as healthy as possible, because being sick at college is not fun, because you miss one class, you are behind, and it's really hard to catch up. So try your absolute best to stay as healthy as possible.
I mean, there are precautions you can take, like, vitamins. Like, eating healthy does play a factor in, like, your mental and physical state, but more so just, like, washing your hands, taking vitamins. For me, I'm anemic, so it's very easy for me to get sick if someone's sick around me. So I'm definitely one that's all about vitamins. I take so many, especially iron pills, to try and counteract that anemia, but just be aware. And if you are sick, don't go hugging on people. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. If you're like, oh yeah, I'm a little sniffly, come here. I'm gonna be like, don't touch me, don't come near me. And if you are like starting to get worse, don't be against medicine. Run over to your local Walgreens or CVS. This is not sponsored. And grab some medicine. Cold medicine does wonders. Also, don't mistake what you think could be a cold or something with allergies, because that's something that some people do. And then they're like taking all this cold medicine, and it's just gonna block your immune system against it eventually. And then when you really need it, you won't be able to. So just be smart about how you stay healthy.
Lori?
On top of being healthy, just because you are around someone sick, or like even if it's like cold outside, don't forget that your diet plays a huge part in you getting sick. If you eat unhealthy all the time, and it's so easy to do at dining halls because they serve you crap most of the time, but there are healthy options. You need to watch your diet and go to the gym and take care of your body, because if you're eating burgers and fries every day and the pizza that they serve, like a ton of it, then you're not going to be healthy, and you're just going to get more sick because you're eating like crap. So obviously your body's going to react to that, just how much grace you're intaking. So you have to like balance it out. Get a salad sometimes. Get like meat if they have it, or like pastas. Like they have other options. That's just a huge thing. Like watch your diet. That's how you get sick too.
One quick thought is that the freshman 15 is real. In fact, in some cases, it's like a freshman 20. Oh gosh, even a freshman 25.
30.
It is real. I'm gonna have to hand it over to John real quick in regards to what I just said. So, John.
The freshman 15 is a goal, not a limit.
Thank you. That is John. John made that quote on the first day because on our first meal ever at the dining halls, John and I absolutely loaded up. And because the reality is, it's so freaking easy. The dining halls are going for quantity, not quality. They could give a shit if it's healthy or not, It's literally fat that they dye and spray paint to look like burgers. That's all it is. So but you need to be conscious of your health.
Bryn?
Also, women peak at the beginning of their 20s and men in their later 20s. But after that, you have to remember that what you're doing to your body now will affect you later on. So even though for like Lauren and my age, we're kind of coming into the peak of our like physical health and stuff, we still have to watch what we put into our bodies, because later on our metabolisms won't be able to break down things as easily. And so if we're being kind to our bodies now, we'll be able to maintain a healthier lifestyle later. And the same goes for men. Like I said, they peak later in their 20s, but still what you're doing now affects you later. So yes, there aren't healthy options at the dining hall, but you can definitely like try and balance it. Like I tend to try and get a salad a few times a week. And I still eat a burger, but maybe cut back on some of the fries. Cut out pop. I know pop is extremely hard to cut out. I'm addicted to all kinds of caffeine, but I have cut out most pop.
Soda. Sorry, it's called soda.
It's soda pop.
Continue.
Yeah, soda, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For British fans, fizzy drink.
Yeah. Bryn, next tip to you.
Lauren's actually going to help me in this next tip. So my next tip is for those of you who have like divorced parents or only one parent or a parent who is ill when you come to school. Lauren and I have very different stories, but they are very relatable to one another. I came to college with just my dad. My mother passed away when I was 17, and that was a big hitch in kind of like my life plan. And my mom was always my biggest supporter and like my biggest fan in everything I did. And I kind of had a strained relationship with my dad. So when all of a sudden we were thrown into this situation where we had to get to know one another, I became very reliant on him. And so when you're coming into college, it's okay to not have both parents. It's okay to have divorced parents, and it's okay to have a sick parent. Your level of support doesn't waver based on that. And I know it can be hard, and it's definitely a strain because you deal with something differently than other people. Lauren, do you want to add on this?
I don't even know how to start. I guess like I don't know. Okay. I guess like I came to college, like I was very excited to come to Western because of like the dance program that I was in, and I kind of like jumped very quickly after the audition. I was like, this is where I want to come. I didn't take a tour of the school or anything, so I immediately chose this school. And then by the time it came down to August, I was like having regrets because my mom at that point, I think she'd had cancer for about over a year. So we had gotten into this like routine, like every morning I'd make her like a waffle with jelly, and I'd have her coffee with French vanilla creamer, and like I had this whole thing planned out. And I was like the first like couple days and like driving up to Western, like I did not want to come because I was like, why am I leaving my mom when she's so sick right now? And I felt like so shameful about it, and I was like, I'm gonna be 3 hours away, so I can't like be right there, something happens. I think like I knew it though, like my parents were not about to let me go to some school that's like not as good at Western but closer to home, because they knew that I would enjoy Western more and that I would benefit from it, and they were right, I have. But so just like that, like leaving school with an ill parent, that's always something hard to do. But I would, if you have any doubts, like definitely just ask your parents about it, because if they support you in anything, then like you're doing the right thing. Like I don't regret coming to Western at all, even though like I was farther away from my mom and whatever. And then in November, like maybe like mid-November, right around Thanksgiving break, she passed away, and that was the most difficult thing I will probably ever have to deal with in my life. And I did not know what to do, and my biggest regret was that I was 3 hours away and I couldn't get to her, and I sat on my butt for like 2 hours in shock, and I missed her death. And that was something that was like, oh my god, like I was not there for months, and I couldn't help, and I couldn't see what was going on. And I don't really remember the last time that I saw her, the last thing that I said to her. But just like dealing with that, I don't even know how I think just my biggest supporters were like all my friends back home and at school. They were just like there, and like people handle it differently. Like I never went to therapy. Yeah, I have very like depressive moments, and I don't know if I would consider myself depressed or not, even though most people would because of the situation. But for me, like just being around people that we're close with, and even having those connections back home, and there's people that like I barely talk to at home that were my mom's friends that text me, and like people reach out to me, and I know that I have so many people that I can also reach out to. I have friends that my friend Bryn let my boyfriend take her car and drive 3 hours to spend a day with me, or like 2 days with me, and then he came back 2 days later for 20 minutes and then went home for Thanksgiving break. And like that shows to me like how much my friends care about me. Like Bryn didn't even care if somebody took her car because she knew like that I was going through this situation, that I needed somebody from school who had been with me for those months. I love you too, Dewey. That like so I needed somebody there for that time. And all my friends back home were there, and people were making me laugh and like keeping me upbeat through this, and that was important. And then even like coming back after Thanksgiving break, like how much I missed dances, I missed choreo, I missed like everything, and I had to basically jump right back into it, because even though people are like sympathetic, they're like, you gotta know what you're doing. So, but there was so many people that were so supportive. Everybody in David's piece, this like huge piece that I was in, they were just loving on me the entire time. There was one person who knew exactly my spot and my choreography, and she taught me, and it was great. And the people in our choreo 3 like had me like go off stage for the parts I missed. They weren't like, oh, like try to learn it as fast as you can, you know, like they were just like accommodating to everything. And it was just important to stick with my friends, and you know, if I need help, I'll reach out and get it. And I always call my dad and I call my sister whenever I possibly can, but sometimes it's just handling it and however you think is best. And for me, that's just being around my friends.
Or like for me, when I came into college, I like didn't have my mom, and so it was a fear of mine that people, when they found out here, they would treat me differently. And we've all mentioned this group of friends that we have, and we're very lucky to have this group of friends. When all of them found out, they were completely supportive of me. They never pushed me, like when an anniversary date is coming up with my mom, they never push me to talk about it if I don't want to. If I'm having a particularly rough day, they give me the space I need, because I'm not someone who cries in front of other people. I don't express my emotions very well. So just like, again, that support system is very important. And no matter what your situation is with your parents, coming to college can help you learn to cope with that. It can help you find people that can help you to cope with that. And if you have like my case or Lauren's case, you can even sometimes get closer to that one parent who has also lost someone. Or if you have divorced parents, your relationship with both of them can get better. Or if you don't have the best home life, people here can become your family. And I think that's something that's really cool about college.
To like add on to your point, actually, I wanted to. You just had mentioned at the end there that like the people who you meet at college, your friends, can end up becoming your family, and I definitely say that that's become kind of my situation. My home life's not perfect, and no one's is. So I know people have it worse than I do, and I know people have it better than I do. But from where I stand, it's a kind of rough thing to always have to go back to. So having like a second family, sort of, or even what I would say my main family at this point, of people who support and care about each other, is a really incredible thing. And like fully expect yourself to find that at college if you give it the time to grow and kind of foster that connection between people. So before I get into my final tip and we do closing remarks, we actually do have a guest who has to get going. So the closing remark question is, how would you say you have changed the most over the course of the year?
Oh, geez.
Quick thought.
It's
for all of us, yeah.
It's been a roller coaster, but it's the best roller coaster you'll ever have. I've changed in so many ways. It's hard to choose one, but you'll find out once you come in. You won't regret coming. It's the best experience.
Yeah. Alright, so if you need to head out.
Yeah,
great. Goodbye, Justin.
Bye.
Thank you for coming on to the podcast.
Justin, you want your Diet Pepsi?
His information will be in the description down below to all of his social media that has been previously listed on the episode. So you can go down there to check that out. And have a good one, Justin.
Bye-bye.
So, before we do closing remarks for the rest of us, my final tip, I think it's really important in a college situation to properly kind of throw yourself into something wholeheartedly. And whether or not that's your major is your decision. I think that's like a really important idea to make, a really important choice to make rather. I know a lot of people who are accounting or physics majors or whatever who picked up something like an art minor because they just wanted to experience something new and dive into something they knew they could enjoy on the side of like a serious kind of passion for a career. And for me, those two things line up really, really well. Being an art major and having this real passion to create things kind of gives me this internal environment I can sort of go to and create for myself, where I can absorb myself in my work and kind of not only accomplish what I need to for classes and school in general, but to also keep myself focused and really keep myself from kind of falling into the trap where I think that I've hit like a point where I can't go any further, or I can't get any better, or I hit like a creative block. Like having something to always go back to is really important, and since I can dive into that as deep as I want, it's never going to really be an issue to have somewhere to go. So finding something that you're passionate in, whether or not it's your major, is really important, I think, especially now when you're dealing with so much change that it could be kind of hard to manage without a way to escape on occasion.
And even if that's not like a specific passion, like having the things that keep you grounded and kind of keep you to the core of yourself. Like I've mentioned them earlier, my two best friends from home, like they've helped me so much whenever I feel like I'm losing control or I'm losing my grasp of certain situations. I know I can call either one of them and they're like, you got this, like we know you, we've seen you through some of the hardest things in your life, you've got this is just another mountain you have to climb. And so like my little way to stay grounded, or my passion, if you'll say, is like my friends from home, because they kind of remind me who I am at the core and my end goal. They kind of keep me focused. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, is this the final question?
No.
No, this is my point about having something to dive into as either an escape or a passion outside of what your schoolwork is, as a means of coping with stress or just kind of experiencing something new.
Yeah, I know a lot of people think differently about this, but I think having a passion is, it's very important, and that's what I'm, doing for my major. I love music, but I also think that I know this is kind of deviating from the point a little bit, but something my dad always said was, I actually don't even remember, but it was something along the lines of, major in something that'll get you money, minor in something that you love. And I've kind of done the exact opposite of that, but it's like, I don't know. I mean, I think you need to be practical too, but I definitely think, having an outlet is so important. And I could say, if that's what you love doing, make that your profession. But also be a little practical with it too. I mean, I'm going to be a music teacher. That way I get music, but I also have a steady job, and that's the main difference between being a performer and an educator. A performer is you're living paycheck to paycheck, and you're waiting decades for your big break. But I think that you should definitely follow what you love doing. I don't really remember if that was the question or not, but there you go.
Yeah.
Mine
I
was
mean, I think
really-
it also depends on it depends on the person's attitude. Like I've always been that person that's like, you should always go for your passion. Like you shouldn't go into something just because like you want to make money. I'm like, if you love something, you'll find a way to make money. But I guess it also just depends on like your attitude. Like if you are able to have that drive to you're like, I want to do this. Like I want to have something that will make me money. Like be like, I love this, but not as much as I love this. You can do side things with your passion, whatever. Like you can minor in your passion, you can join groups, but if you really have a mindset of like you want to make money and you want to do something that you still love, just you're doing it because like you want to be like rich or whatever, like that's fine, that's not bad, but it really just depends, like do you want to put in that extra determination, because when it isn't something that you absolutely love and you're not interested in 100%, you will have a harder time dealing with it, because you're going to be like, well, I like this, but you know, like, you're going to have way too many complaints. But it just depends on like your mindset, and if you are determined to make money, then go for it, but still make sure that you're doing something that you love, because if you lose that, then you're just going to be like, what am I doing here? And then you're going to regret everything that you've done. But I like it.
Yeah. Alright, so anything else to add? Last remarks? Alright, if that's done, so we're going to go to our final closing question real quick here. What do you think is the single, the way that you changed the most over the course of this year? Like the one specific thing that has changed the most about you? Dewey?
I think that something I've always struggled with, at least in a school professional setting, is just responsibility, and kind of following through with what I say I'm going to do. I think that college has helped me a little bit with just responsibility, knowing that if I have a project, not to wait till the very last minute. Doing homework every single day, not putting it all off. Like I said, I sing in the church choir, and yeah, I have to get up early in the morning on Sunday, and I'd love to sleep in, but I made a commitment to them. So I think I've become more responsible with commitments, and I guess my last advice for people is that responsibility and maturity does not happen overnight, and just because you are a legal adult does not mean you are an adult. You need to act your age, you need to be responsible, and that's not an overnight thing. You need to actually make an effort over the course of however long it takes you to actually develop and be mature. And I think that that's something that I have learned over my first year at Western.
Britt?
I would definitely say I am a more secure and confident person now than I was at the beginning of school. I was pretty badly bullied from about 6th grade until sophomore year of high school, and that it definitely takes a toll on you, and even if you find a new confidence once that ends, you can still become this kind of insecure, defensive person, and I'm definitely more secure in who I am now. I carry myself differently, if that makes sense. I no longer feel like I'm putting up a front. I feel like I'm who I actually am, and that I don't need to hide behind a mask anymore. And that comes from having a good support system here and just exploring who I am as a person, and I'm really enjoying who I'm becoming. That doesn't mean I've changed from the person I was. It just means I'm becoming a better version of myself. And I feel like that's one of the most beautiful things about college, is you become a new, better version of yourself.
I would say that the way I've changed the most is I think I've become a lot less scared of being who I want to be. Before coming to college, I was in kind of an environment where, like a traditional high school climate where no one has a place to fit in really, other than like the jocks or the theater kids. These very specific, very tight-knit groups all centered around one specific thing. And unfortunately, that same thing didn't really extend to visual artists when it came to where I came from. So coming to college really not only gave me that environment, but made me realize that there's no reason that I really need to have it. Going out and meeting so many new interesting people, like this friend group, and then all the people I've involved myself with and through my classes and the work I do with people and the collaborations, it's all kind of given me this insight to see that it doesn't really matter who people think I am as long as I'm willing to make who I really am work. And I'm no longer afraid to say, yeah, this is what I think and how I feel. And I may regret some of the things I say or do, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I can't grow. And knowing that this isn't the end for me and I'm not stuck, on a personal level from growing and experiencing new things is a really satisfying change for me. So on that note, now that all of us have done our closing remarks, if you guys have any social media you'd like to share, Bryn, you shared yours in the last episode. Is it the same? No changes?
No changes.
Well, then you can check that out in the description below. Dewey, where can people find some of the work and or content you do or anything online if you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, all I have right now is Instagram, and my username is @ChewyDewey. That is ChewyDewey. No, wait, just kidding, I spelled that wrong. I'm gonna restart it. My Instagram is @ChewyDewey. That's ChewyDewey. And yeah, that's about all I got right now.
Nice, awesome. As always, thank you guys for coming onto the show. Thank you, Lauren, for adding this peanut gallery and sharing your opinion as well. Thank you, John, for doing the sound again. As always, you have been a massive help throughout this production from episode 2. Thank you all so much for being here. I'll see you guys in the next episode of Food for Thought.